If you look at what's happening between Washington and Ottawa right now, it doesn't feel like a negotiation. It doesn't feel like diplomacy. It feels like a breakup. For nearly 70 years, the rules were simple and never questioned. The United States built the weapons. Canada bought them. Washington set the terms. Ottawa signed the checks. It wasn't written down as a law, but everyone understood it. That was the deal. That was the special relationship. And then, in less than 48 hours, that entire system cracked. Because when Donald Trump decided to tighten the leash, he expected Canada to do what it had always done. Fold quietly, smile politely, and pay. Instead, Canada flipped the table. And what happened next sent shockwaves through defense markets, rattled the Pentagon, and triggered panic calls to the White House that are still happening right now. This isn't a theory. This isn't posturing. This is a real shift, and it's already costing the United States billions. So let's slow this down and walk through exactly what happened, step by step. Because once you see how this unfolded, you'll understand why this moment matters far beyond fighter jets, and why the era of automatic obedience is officially over. It started on Tuesday. Donald Trump was standing at a podium in Ohio, doing what he does best, rallying his base. He was talking about strength. He was talking about dominance. He was talking about allies who, in his words, take advantage of the United States. And then he turned his attention north. He singled out Canada, not subtly, not diplomatically, directly. He said, and this is paraphrased, that if Canada wanted to stay under the American security umbrella, it needed to buy American equipment. Exclusively. No delays. No alternatives. No excuses. He demanded an immediate commitment to a massive new tranche of American-made fighter jets. He attached a price tag. He attached a timeline. This wasn't framed as an offer. It wasn't framed as a partnership. It was framed as leverage. Buy our jets, or maybe we reconsider how much protection you get. Buy our jets, or maybe tariffs suddenly appear. Buy our jets, or else. In the past, this approach worked. A previous Canadian Prime Minister would have rushed to Washington. They would have talked about cooperation. They would have promised reviews and studies and future discussions. That didn't happen. Mark Carney didn't respond at all. No press conference. No angry statement. No dramatic speech. Just silence. And while the cameras were focused on Trump, something very different was happening behind closed doors in Ottawa. Less than 6 hours after Trump's speech, the Prime Minister's office issued a quiet, formal directive to the Department of National Defense. No announcement, no headlines, just paperwork. Canada did not sign the deal. Canada did not renegotiate the deal. Canada suspended the exclusivity clause. That sounds technical, boring even. But in reality, it was a declaration of independence. Because that single move meant Canada was no longer legally bound to buy American equipment, and only American equipment. For the first time in decades, Canada's defense checkbook was officially open. And that's when things escalated. Because within hours, reports began surfacing that Canadian officials were spotted meeting with European aerospace groups. Not for courtesy visits, not for photo ops. They were there to discuss alternatives. France, Sweden, countries that build world-class fighter jets. Competitors. Trump's message was buy American or else. Carney's response was simpler. We'll shop elsewhere. This is the part that stunned Washington. The U.S. defense industry has treated Canada like a captive market for generations. Contracts were assumed. Forecasts were built around it. Entire supply chains depended on it. Trump tried to squeeze harder, and instead, the entire relationship slipped out of his grip. Now, some people immediately asked the obvious question. Is this just theater? Is Carney posturing for domestic politics? Is this a bluff? No, because the receipts came fast and they were loud. The first receipt showed up on Wall Street. The moment news broke that Canada had suspended exclusivity, major American defense contractors saw their stocks dip. Not a crash, not a collapse, but a sharp, immediate drop of 2 to 3% in intraday trading. That might not sound dramatic until you understand what that means. That's billions of dollars in market value erased in minutes. Markets don't panic over speeches. They panic over risk. And investors immediately understood the risk. If Canada can walk away, who else can? Because this wasn't just about one contract. It was about reliability. Trump's rhetoric signaled something dangerous to investors. American defense companies were now attached to political volatility. And volatility scares capital. Then came the second receipt. a leaked internal procurement memo from Canada's supply chain sector. This document outlined a new requirement. Every dollar spent on defense must generate a dollar of domestic industrial benefit. In plain language, if Canada buys jets, Canadian companies must benefit equally. Trump's demanded deal didn't include that. It was cash for planes. No tech transfer. No domestic investment. By enforcing this rule, Carney didn't just say no. He made it legally impossible to say yes. And that's the genius of it. He didn't escalate rhetorically. He didn't insult Trump. He didn't provoke a headline war. He used bureaucracy as armor. He tied his own hands so they couldn't be forced. That's not weakness. That's defensive politics at the highest level. Then came receipt number 3, flight logs. Government aircraft moving repeatedly between Ottawa and key European capitals. A noticeable spike in high-level diplomatic traffic with France and Sweden. Those countries weren't chosen randomly. They build fighter jets capable of replacing American systems. And if Canada signs one of those deals, the implications are massive. The jets themselves are just the beginning. Maintenance contracts, software updates, training systems, specialized parts. That's tens of billions of dollars over decades. And suddenly, that money was looking for a new passport. Then receipt number 4 sealed it. Canada's tech and aerospace sector, usually quiet, cautious, went public. Executives from AI firms and advanced manufacturing companies openly supported Carney's move. Why? Because Trump's America First policies often lock Canadian companies out of U.S. defense contracts. They're treated as outsiders. Carney's message to them was clear. If they shut us out, we build it ourselves. He turned a defense standoff into an industrial mobilization. And Canadians responded. Polls showed something unexpected. Not fear, anger. And Carney was converting that anger into leverage. So why is this happening? Why is the most powerful man on earth losing a staring contest with his quiet neighbor? Because Trump is fighting a world that no longer exists. His strategy is simple: leverage through pressure. Threaten tariffs. Insult leaders. Demand compliance. That worked decades ago. It doesn't anymore. Countries have options now. When Trump threatened Mexico, Mexico diversified trade. When he pressured Europe, Europe accelerated military independence. Now Canada is doing the same. Every time Trump plays the threat card, it loses value. And inside Washington, people know it. The Pentagon understands what this means. The US and Canada share a continent. They share NORAD. They share Arctic defense. If Canada stops buying American systems, interoperability breaks down. That's not a business problem. That's a security nightmare. Trump thinks he's selling cars. He doesn't understand he's selling cohesion. And cohesion is what keeps North America safe. Now contrast that with Mark Carney. If Trump is a sledgehammer, Carney is a scalpel. This is a man who ran the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England. He understands capital. He understands incentives. He doesn't fight emotionally. He fights structurally. Carney knows Trump needs fast wins. Headlines. Crowds. Carney is playing the long game. By opening bidding to Europe, he's buying insurance. He's telling the world Canada is stable, predictable, sane. In a chaotic environment, money flows towards stability. And Carney is betting something even smarter. He's betting Trump's own donors will turn on him. Defense companies have lobbyists, powerful ones. And when billions are on the line, those lobbyists don't stay quiet. Carney is waiting. Now here's why you should care. This isn't about jets. It's about prices. If Canada stops buying American equipment, U.S. factories lose volume. Lose volume, they lay off workers. If Trump retaliates with tariffs on Canadian steel or aluminum, prices spike. Cars cost more. Construction costs more. Even your beer gets more expensive. Supply chains are interconnected. Shock one part, the whole system feels it. But zoom out even further and the picture gets darker. This is the erosion of American influence in real time. When the US treats its closest ally like an enemy, others take notes. Japan sees it. Germany sees it. South Korea sees it. Loyalty no longer brings trust, it brings bills. And when you become a risk, people stop relying on you. There was a moment that captured all of this perfectly. A reporter shouted a question at Canada's defense minister after the meeting. Are you worried about how President Trump will react? The minister didn't stop walking. He adjusted his coat and said 5 words. We are shopping, not begging. That's the shift. Now, where does this go? 3 paths. First, the Trump tantrum. Tariffs. Retaliation. Escalation. Canada responds in kind. Markets wobble. Prices rise. Second, the quiet walk back. The Pentagon intervenes. Executives intervene. Trump offers a better deal. If that happens, Carney wins. Third, the permanent split. Canada signs with Europe. The ink dries. There's no going back. And that's the dangerous one. Because this isn't about metal and engines. It's about who owns the future. Trump believes force still works. Carney believes strategy does. And Canada just proved the United States isn't the only game in town. So I'll ask you, is Carney protecting sovereignty or daring Trump to blow up the alliance? Is this smart defense or a dangerous gamble? Drop your take in the comments. I read them. And if you want to know what Trump's countermove is, because it's coming, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. This story is moving fast, and we'll have the update before most people even realize what just changed. You're watching history unfold. Stay tuned.